everybody. The train is rolling on here in the book of Genesis. We're in chapter 13. And we get Abram and Lot coming out of Egypt. And if everybody remembers this, they part and Lot goes to Sodom, and that's trouble. And God renews his promise to Abraham here, and he removeth to Hebron, and there he buildeth an altar in Genesis 13. Verse 1, And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel. And remember, that's the ladder, Jacob's ladder there in Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. 5 is a new paragraph, and Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. For their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together, period. 7, And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And 8, And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? ? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. So what's he saying? Instead of being the salt marsh, it is a garden here before the Lord took his severe judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah. Notice that it's as Egypt when you go into Zoar. See, that was the river and the lush land. It could grow all kinds of crops normally, unless there was drought. Okay, so anyway, that's the layout. In 11, Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves, the one from the other, period. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And I tell you, everybody needs to go to Jacer and see what that means. I'm telling you, here in 13:13. Their sin, it did reach all the way to heaven. It was just horrible. It's beyond any description I could give you here quickly. There was so much wickedness there, and everything they did was against God. How could you have that? How could you have that amount of people doing this wickedness? And the bottom line is, it happens. And it's happening today, folks. There's a lot of Sodom and Gomorrah out here in the world today. In fact, the Lord said in the last days it'll be like the days of Noah, and he called Jerusalem modern day Egypt and Sodom. How about that one? For all these deceived people that don't know that that land's desolate until Christ returns. So anyway, Jacer gives you a good description of that. 14 is a new paragraph. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward, and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I'm a broken record of this. This will be fulfilled with the new Jerusalem, north star to earth, heavenly throne of God to earth, watered by that river that flows out from under the throne of God. Okay? Fulfillment. All right. And the other things, the earthly seed failed, but the heavenly seed and the remnant and the people that are chosen, they're going to be here at this, and they're going to inherit all this. 18, and I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth. In 15 it says, for all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. And that is of all kindreds and tongues and families of the earth, folks, over all these thousands of years. 17, arise, walk through the land, in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. And again, that's 12 smooth stones. Now this battle that we're about to see in 14, Abram, he comes to the rescue of these kings, not for their good, but he does it for his relative there, Lot. Okay? In fact, Lot gets blessed because of Abram. That's how much the Lord loved Abram. Okay, in 14, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar. Okay, that's Shinar is the land around Babylon there. Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tibal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah. Shinab, king of Admah, and Shem-eber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. And that's what the Dead Sea, correct? In 4 it says 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth, Carmium, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emmons in Shavah and Kirithaim. All right, folks, does everybody realize that those are giants? The Emmons. So they were some pretty great warriors to go up there and start smiting, really getting the advantage on these Emmons. All right, so anyway, there's that. 6, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. 7, and they returned and came to En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwell in Hazeron Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zor, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Eroth, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, and there fell, and they that remained fled to the mountain. In 10. 11, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. 12, and they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed, period. 13, new paragraph. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Okay, and we know that Dan is what? Well, Dan is the other name for Babylon. Okay, Kabbalah Dan. Remember Bilhah naming him Dan, the handmaid. So Dan in this case isn't the tribe of Dan because the sons of Jacob were what? Not born yet. Okay, so let's keep that straight. 15, and he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Now, folks, this really harmonizes with Jasher here. Lots of good details to fill in some of the spots here. The two things edify each other. All right, they harmonize good. Anyway, 17, new paragraph, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Seva, which is the king's vale. All right, now this character here, I call it Melchizedek flesh because he was put here by the Lord. He's king of Salem. He was over the prophets. He had no birth. He had no death. He is just a great servant. So I call the flesh that Christ got when he was resurrected, and the flesh that we're going to get that will never decay, not like what we have now. I nicknamed it Melchizedek flesh because of this not having a birth and not having a death. But here he is, the king of Salem, head of all the prophets here at this time. Now, so this harmonizes really good. It's talked about in 2 Samuel 18:18, Hebrews 7:1 is a good description of all of this king of Salem. Anyway, in 18, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, that's God, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all. So all the things that he had taken from these kings, he tithed the percentage to Melchizedek. 21, and the king of Sodom said unto Abraham, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoelace it. So it's a shoelace or latchet. That I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram, rich. 24, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me. Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. Okay, now and we're going to move on here. In 15, and God encourages Abraham, and he's complaining that he doesn't have a son, and God promises him a son and the multiplying of his seed. And we know that's going to come true, don't we? And 6, Abram's justified by faith. And he gives him the promise of the land again. And it's confirmed by a sign and a vision. All right, in 15 in the book of Genesis, verse 1, it says, After these things the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. Boy, that's for us today, ain't it? And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? ? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus. . And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thy own bowels shall be thine heir. In 5, and he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now towards heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And this is not only physical, not only DNA, but we're talking about the spiritual seed. And we're talking about people that are written into God's book right here. Okay, in 6, he says, And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Okay, there is the faith. Right, so you go to the New Testament in Romans 4:18 and Romans 4:3 and Galatians and James, and we're all talking about the faith that Abram had. And I want to call him Abraham, but it's Abram at this point in the history. Like Sarah is what? The Sarai, because God hasn't changed their names yet, so I will remember to do that. 7, it says, And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldeans, that's back to Babylon again, to give thee this land, and to inherit it. In 8 it says, And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? ? 9, and he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. 10, and he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. 13, and he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Okay, now here is the prophecy about what's going to happen to the sons of Jacob down the road, how they're going to go to Egypt. Notice how he's driven the fowls away. Notice the horror, okay, because even though we had the good time there with Joseph, it ended up with this imprisonment and the great affliction, and Noah and Moses. Okay, and this is all the seed of Noah, all coming out of this bloodline that was to be non-tainted from the world and from the fallen angels. So Adam and Eve on up. Notice he's driving the fowls away. Okay, so anyway, there's a similitude going there. 14, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge afterward. Shall they come out with great substance? There's another prophecy that we know was fulfilled. It's now history. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. Another prophecy. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. There's an important one. There's an important one. Now think of that similitude. Think of how he drove the birds away from the sacrifice here. Okay? And what's it saying? The Amorites are getting worse and worse. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, worse and worse. Like the world that we live in today, worse and worse. And what's he saying? The Amorites, evil is not yet grown. So here we have it. God Almighty allows evil to grow and grow and grow and grow, and then it's time to chop it down. It's time for the wine press of the wrath of God, and that's what's being said here. It was done to Pharaoh and his host, to the Egyptians, the great people that love the mystery school of Egypt, and they're in bed with all the fallen angels, and they worship the sun and the moon and the stars and the seasons and the equinoxes and the rising water, the fertility goddess, the great pyramids, the portholes, all that, and they're right here going to get smacked down. And look at this, the Amorites are going to get it. And they are just in love with the fallen angels and that same Babylonian religion. Okay, the same religion that was polluting there with Nimrod and his son Marduk. It did not go away. It hasn't went away yet, but he sure smacked them around. Now these Amorites are known for the Nephilim and Rephaim, and so is Egypt. I mean, when you get into Jazer and you see these kids that the Pharaoh was having, one of them's a dwarf that has all this ugly skin and his beard down to his feet, and etc. Now, I'll tell you, we've solved the archaeology on these things. The Egypt was full of these Nephilim. 2 rows of teeth, giant skulls, big old heads on them, non-human. That's over every pictorial. What do you think that big headdress is they have on? It's covering the great forehead of the Nephilim. All right, okay. So all that's going to get cast down. Notice the 3 of the heifer and the, and that's when it's a heifer of 3 years old in the Bible, that's ready for butchering. Okay? So, in other words, the cattle is 3 years old. That's completely its tastiest time. It's very, very nutritious. So there it is, ready to go. But notice the birds that he had to drive away. All this is a similitude of what the sons of Jacob are going to do here in the Middle East to these people that worship their fallen angels, that worship the host of heaven that tainted the human bloodline again after the flood. Now that's the bottom line. I will stop here with that. But that's right here in this. So here he's going to go on. He's going to be buried in peace. Now that came true. Now we go back to the fourth generation, and that's the time of Moses. That's what I'm saying. Now this is on down the line from Noah and the flood, but it's the same bloodline of good guys. All right. So there's that. Here's more of it in 17. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. Okay, so there is the Spirit of Jesus Christ right there. Right in between those pieces. In that same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. Period. Now let me tell you, folks, before everyone thinks, well, this guy is just ad-libbing. It was a custom to walk between. Listen, when they're asking for a vow, for a promise in this culture, and this is in the Bible, folks, they would split the beast that is going to be eaten, and people would walk between it. Now that's in the Bible. And here it ain't people walking between it. They're not making a vow. Who is making a vow? Is it not that burning fire, folks, that's making this vow to Abraham of what the future is going to be? And how Abraham's seed is going to drive the ungodly birds away? I'm telling you, that is a custom of them making a promise and a vow to keep within the sons of Jacob. And that's the meaning of this, and this is a custom of theirs back then, and that's sure, I'm not out on a limb at all. I'm telling you what all that means. That burning lamp is Jesus Christ, and he's right there. He was right there with Noah. He was right there with Abraham. He's right there with the sons of Jacob, and he's right there with us today. See you on the next one.